Hi, this is William Thayer. I'm talking about the COVID crisis. This particular video is designed just for Elon Musk. Well, actually, what I'm really hoping is anyone that works for Tesla or works for SpaceX that might see this, if they could get this video to Elon Musk, I think he'd see the logic of the arguments and make test machines. That's the whole objective. So I've been making a series of videos on the COVID crisis. Of course, we got too many cases, too many deaths. And Elon, I've got a bunch of videos here. You can look at them at your leisure. Now, outline for this particular video. I'm going to do an intro about me a little bit and about you, why I'm making this video for you. And then I'm going to talk about comprehensive testing. That's the theme of all my videos, because that's what we really need until we get a vaccine. That's what we really need to defeat COVID. And the COVID problem, of course, really nasty. Test machines, that's the key. In this particular case, we've got test machines. We just need test machine production until we get enough so that we can do comprehensive testing. That's the real key for this particular video, and that's what I think you're uniquely qualified to do. I've got a possible design improvement which could cut the production, the number of test machines we need by a factor of 10. Might work, might not. And then I'm going to summarize. So intro. Like you, I got a high-tech background, aerospace engineer. This is my textbook on orbital re-entry physics. Looking at re-entering to Mars. I never got on that program. I think you'll do the job, and I'm going to be so excited when you do get to Mars. Anyway, that's days gone by. What I did is I worked in satellites for 30 years. I worked for Hughes Aircraft. I worked for some really brilliant people. They were the guys that put the first synchronous satellite up there. On the right is Dr. Rosen. I was in his division 43. And on the left is Dr. Hudspeth. He was the chief scientist. And I was a lowlife. What I did is I worked mostly on the HS-376 satellite down below. I worked on a bunch of other stuff too. Anyway, when you launched launch vehicles into space and then brought them back down to Earth and landed them with great precision, I was so excited. Absolutely so excited. This revolutionizes space. With the reduction in launch cost, you are going to be able to put so much stuff up there in space that you're going to get to Mars. And I'm going to be really excited when that happens. Now, in this COVID crisis, which of course, disaster, wiped out our economy, I was impressed. I wrote you about the time that we had the COVID, the ventilator crisis, about the 1st of April. I wrote you a letter. I put up a block diagram and said, hey, you can make a ventilator to solve this ventilator crisis problem. And then a week later, I discovered, hey, you'd done it beforehand. And so, in case people are looking at this and don't know what Elon Musk did, upper left, what his guys did is lay out a block diagram, first step to designing anything. And the orange represents all the parts that are Tesla auto parts. So, in other words, he made 80% of this ventilator with Tesla auto parts. Incredible. And he did that so that he wouldn't disrupt the supply chains for the other ventilator makers. Okay, and also he's got a lot of parts at Tesla. Very, very cool, like Apollo 13 type thinking. Upper right, the first thing you do with any sort of machines, lay out that thing functionally on a bench, and that's what's done there. And then you package it up in a final product. That's what's at the lower left is a final product. And then you check the performance. That's what's done at the lower right. And if you haven't seen what he's done, look at that YouTube video. It's just really amazing. No other billionaire in the United States could even dream of doing this. It's very impressive. So why am I making this video for Elon Musk? Because you are the only billionaire who's actually done something to fight COVID. You've given about 1,000 ventilators to different states, and you've made your own ventilator, produced them, and I think California's got those ventilators. But nobody else has done anything. You're the only one. You weren't asked to do this. You did this of your own volition. So what I'm asking you in this video is, please make COVID test machines. Comprehensive testing. To do comprehensive testing, you got to have enough testing machines to test everybody in the United States. Now, the CDC plan has been to lock down 100% of the people in the United States. Now, the recovery plan is to reopen by having each state see 14 days of downward trend in their cases, and then they'll ease up the restrictions. But it's still on 100% of the people. And then they'll do it again for phase 2 and phase 3. Comprehensive testing is what needs to be added to this plan. This plan will work. The CDC plan will work, but it's too slow. It's too slow. So comprehensive testing will get us to the same spot, actually probably to a better spot, sooner. Okay, it'll get us there sooner. Comprehensive testing just tests everybody, finds out who has COVID. That's about 0.2% of the U.S., or it could be larger. I suspect it might be more like 2%. But you just lock down those people. So let's say that even it is not 0.2%, but 2%. You lock down the 2%, and the other 98% goes back to work. Okay, and you keep checking to make sure that's the case with constant comprehensive testing. So the COVID problem is really dangerous. It's not the regular flu. It's 50 times as dangerous and deadly. It's very contagious, and it's sneaky because people have no symptoms and they do have it. They don't realize they have it, and they make other people sick. So kind of what I observed, there's no proof to this, but kind of what I observed from January 20th, we had our first case in the United States to March 16th. Pretty much it was a low number of cases. And then all of a sudden, it just exploded exponentially. Now, what I think has happened is we really had a lot more cases than what was showing up between January 20th and March 16th. We didn't do enough testing, so we really didn't know how many people we got sick. And I still don't think we have any idea how many people we got sick. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2% of the whole population instead of 0.2%. Now, we're not going to have a vaccine for 1 to 2 years. So we really have no defense against this COVID. I mean, we've got therapeutics. If somebody gets sick, we try to do the best we can with the therapeutics, but that doesn't stop the spread. We're at 90,000 people now. It's going to go to 1 million. The key is stopping the spread. Okay, that's the key. Now, if we didn't do the lockdown, of course, we would probably have had 2 million dead. So I'm not saying that the lockdown was a mistake, but the recovery here we ought to do with comprehensive testing, and we'll get to the desired endpoint much quicker. What I think happened is this, and there's no proof of this, it's just a theory, but nobody really knows. January 20th, we had our first case. March 16th, the cases became detectable in large numbers, and it just shot up exponentially. But the thing is, that blue detection line, I think there's a lot more cases down below that detection line than we really know. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see if it was 2% of the United States. And the only way we're going to know that answer is if we do comprehensive testing. Now, kind of what happened is it shot up exponentially. The cases, that's in the red, shot up exponentially. They hit a peak. Now we're on the way down, and we're doing this 3-phase plan where 14 days of decrease in cases, you can ease up the restrictions. It's still on 100% of the people, and it's going to be a slow process over several months. I don't know. July 1st, maybe it's August 1st. If we had comprehensive testing, we'd get down to a low level much quicker. So it's April 20th, maybe we have 7 to 10 days to start, tooling up and getting parts, and then we start assembling and using these machines. As we do this, that's the green line. I would anticipate, dropping the cases down to a very, very low level very rapidly. It'll save this economy trillions of dollars. Test machines. Okay, here's 3 test machines. Abbott test machines on the left. On the left, it has capability of doing 5 tests an hour. In the center is the Akula, 2 tests an hour. Not as fast, but look, it's really small. You can hold it in your hand. You probably produce 2 of these for the cost of 1 Abbott. And then the Cepheid machine on the right, another great machine. I think it takes 2 modules. The blue is the module there. Akula is based in San Diego. They've got 38 people in the company. And Cepheid is up there in Silicon Valley. I think you, Elon, I think you need some expertise in your company on test machines. And what I would do is just buy these companies. Okay, buy Akula, buy Cepheid. And as a matter of fact, that's what Abbott did to get their test machine. They bought another company, Alera. So, test robot construction, Tesla robot construction, probably the best robot construction in the world. And the little blue robot on the right carrying things around, that's at your Gigafactory. I think you just have the most advanced robotics in the world, which makes it so easy to make test machines. Here's your Tesla company, and of course, you've had to shut it down because this governor of California shut California down. But what I'd do is I'd go to him and I'd say, Governor, I want to get my 10,000 people back working, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to test them for COVID every single day. And if one of them gets it, then I'm going to have him isolated and treated. Okay, and the governor would say, okay, I think you can get your 10,000 people back in there. And you'd say, okay, I want to get them back in there producing Tesla automobiles. Well, how about holding off on that for a month or 2 and produce some test machines? Okay, so what would it take to test 10,000 your 10,000 workers at the Tesla plant in Fremont? Assuming 120 tests a day from an Abbott, which seems to be about their number, 83 COVID test machines, 83 Abbott test machines would do the job. There's about 20,000 of these in the United States, figure 10% in California, 2,000. All you got to do is find 83 of those, boom, your plant's back in business. Now, what I would do is I'd say, okay, hey, if I get my plant back in business, what would it take to get Santa Clara County back in business? That's the home of Silicon Valley. And your plant is right next door in Alameda County, I realize. But you got a lot of friends over there in Santa Clara County. There's a lot of important companies. Let's get Santa Clara County back in business. They've got a population of 4 million people. Divide by 120, you need 33,000 test machines to test everybody there in a day. Or 16,000 test machines, you could test everyone in 2 days. Okay, which would probably be adequate. Test machine production. That's just an idea of, if you've got test machines, what can you do? You can do an awful lot. Well, production, I see 3 basic things. You need parts, you need to assemble those parts, you need the chemicals. Okay, the parts, they're basically plastic if you're just going to copy the test machines that I've got there. It's just injection molds. Everybody knows how to do this. This is not hard. And once you've got a whole bunch of parts, and remember there's 100 parts for one, 50 parts for another, something like this, not very complicated machines, then people can assemble them, and later on you can get robotic assembly. Chemicals, that's what I call test samples. That was my lecture on test samples. You have some chemical knowledge, but this is a little bit different than what your chemicals are. So production, I mean, it's probably more on the level of your battery production plant than your car production plant, but techniques in both plants will work. I'm just saying you make 7,000 battery cells for each car, something like that. They've got fewer parts than one of these test machines, but you can make a lot of individual articles. So the Abbott machine, I'm going to guess, look at that thing, can't have more than 100 parts. It weighs 6 pounds. I mean, just not that complicated to make. Way, way, way simpler than a ventilator. And on the right, the Akula, what do you think? 50 parts? Probably not even that. So I think it would be pretty simple to make the parts and then assemble them. Now, the chemicals, or what I call test samples, you've got some chemical experience. You've got the batteries, their chemistry, rocket fuel, that's chemistry. But COVID agents, reagents are what you need. And there is one company that does this in California that I know of. I've got the link down there. It's in Nevada, California. So you're in the South Bay. It's in the north part of San Francisco Bay. And again, I just make it simple. Just go up and buy the company, and then you've got the knowledge in your company, and then you just mass produce these chemicals. The chemicals are over there on the right. They're primers, they're ATCG, the building blocks of DNA, and an enzyme. So those guys up in Nevada, they know what to do. Just buy them. And then what I would do is set up some production lines. And I think this is pretty simple to do. You got 10,000 people at your Fremont plant. I'd start them working with the goal of making two different sort of production areas, making 2,000 machines each the first week, and then double it every week thereafter, or really not double it, go up exponentially, 2,000 to 4,000 to 16,000 to 32,000. I think you could probably do that. And just a simple little check to see, are you overtaxing your workers? Week 4 at Fremont 1, you make 32,000 machines. You got 5,000 people in half the plant there, okay? 5,000 into 32,000 means each worker is making 6 machines a week. I just don't think that's too hard. Now over on the right, I've got Santa Clara and I've got California. So if you set up these production areas, 2 at Fremont, 1 at Reno, and you produced what I've shown there in the first 2 weeks, you'd have enough test machines to test everybody in Santa Clara County in 2 days. Okay, this is just after production of 2 weeks. In 4 weeks, you would have cumulatively enough test machines to test everybody in California in 2 days. That's 40 million people in 2 days. And essentially you assure California of getting back to work and getting the sick people identified, isolated, and cared for. And I'm going to make a suggestion where maybe you could do it with 1/10 the number of machines that are here. I don't know if it'll work, but I'm going to do that. That's my design improvement. I'm giving you this for free. All I ask for in return is a free trip to Mars. So we'll talk about that later. Anyway, here's the COVID test machine. We've got chemicals in the orange, blue, and white containers, and the nose swab goes in the white container. What I would do is virtually most people are going to test negative. So I would take 10 nose swabs from 10 different people and put them in the white container. Now they may not fit. Maybe it has to be a little bit bigger. So you redesign the machine to take a little bit bigger module there. And then, test them and test 10 people at once. And if it comes back negative, you've got 10 negative tests. So what I do is this. The Abbott machine was really an Alere machine. They bought the company, which is why I'm suggesting you buy the companies that I've designated there. They bought Alere. It was, they designed a machine for a doctor's office. Okay, it's a good machine. And it would test for flu, it would test for strep throat, different chemicals, of course. And, it sits on a doctor's desk and, they're only designing it for one people. Now they adapted it to COVID, okay, but it really wasn't designed for a pandemic. If you got to test a lot of people, you'd have a different design. Something like what I suggest, take 10 nose swabs at once and put it in. Let's say you're testing 100 people at Fremont, okay, at your Fremont plant. So you have 10 of these machines that take 10 swabs at once. And you go, okay, I test them, and 9 of my machines say negative, negative, negative. Those 90 people are okay. And I've got one machine with 10 swabs in it, it tests positive. The thing is, I don't know which of the 10 people is positive. So I swab them again, and I put an individual test into all these 10 machines, test it, and I identify the person that's positive. It's not going to slow you down much at all. So you probably need about 1/10 of the machines if this idea works. Now, the way the PCR process works, and probably you know this already, is you replicate the virus, and it doubles every time it's replicated. That's a PCR process. So as you go from the next to last bullet, 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16, on up to 1 billion. Okay. Well, if you have 10 of these swabs in the white container, maybe it's a weaker COVID solution. So maybe if we look at 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, we say, hey, we're at 16, but we got a 1/10 solution. I got to go back to 1 or 2. And then I go from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16. I got to repeat 5 cycles. Now to get to a billion is about 33 cycles. So I got to do maybe 38 cycles. Big deal. It probably takes the machine 15 minutes instead of 12 minutes. It's not a big deal. And I think you might be able to make this work and have 1/10 the machines that are what I showed on the production chart. So let me summarize. You're the only billionaire who's helped fight COVID, and you weren't asked. You weren't asked to do it. Okay, so I'm asking you here to make test machines and save California, at least at a start, and you can save the world later. Tesla and SpaceX have got the best intellectual resources, the best production facilities, and the best production techniques. So will you please produce the necessary test machines to do comprehensive testing in California? Now, best estimate is this would cost about $1 billion. But all you do is go over to Silicon Valley. You talk to your buddies over there, Larry Ellison, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Zuckerberg, and have them all chip in 200 million. You chip in 200 million, you got it covered. You can probably improve on the test machine designs. So I recommend, this is important, I recommend that you open up another production line. You're producing cars, you're producing rockets, you're producing solar cells. I think you also ought to produce COVID test machines. Okay, this isn't like a temporary thing to get people back to work. You got to keep testing until we get a vaccine. This is going on for a year. Okay, and the world may not realize it, but they've got to do this comprehensive testing too. So you're going to have a lot of customers out there after you save California. Hey, thanks for your attention and stay healthy.